there is nothing going on. And it is actually true. There is nothing going on. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. It is one of those non-dual statements that can make the conditioned mind going crazy. But then again, almost all non-dual statements will make the conditioned mind go crazy. More crazy than it is already. But let's unpack it. Let's unpack it together. Nothing is happening. What can it possibly mean? What can it possibly mean? Nothing is happening. Well, the conditioned mind is constructed in duality. The conditioned mind is perceiving everything in duality. The conditioned mind is constructed by concepts. The conditioned mind is a gigantic conglomeration of concepts interwoven into each other. That is an internal narrative that manifests itself in the outer world through the actions of any particular human being that is viewing the world's existence through a conditioned mind. As always, I would like to emphasize that there is nothing wrong about that. It's just painful most of the time. And it is this pain that eventually leads to an awakening. An awakening out of this conditioned mind. Then a statement like, nothing is going on, nothing is happening. It is a statement that is so to speak, put forward as a part of a non-dual teaching. In order to kind of stun the conditioned mind, confuse the conditioned mind, and it will get confused about it. Nothing is going on. So in order for anything to happen, you need to have some kind of movement. Let us call that existence. And then you need a duality. Then you need a concept about that movement. And in that way, the conditioned mind views this movement, and then it puts a label on it, and it tells itself, this is what is happening. It tells itself that I am watching this, and then it has an internal story about what it sees. It has an internal story that is a conceptual description of this movement. And this conceptual description of this movement is what is happening. But that is only true viewed through the conditioned mind. See, the problem with the conditioned mind is that the conditioned mind do not understand anything unless it has some kind of description, some kind of wording, some kind of narrative about this movement. And then it creates this through naming. See, the conditioned mind is observing this movement, and every time it sees something, it puts a label on it. And then it says to itself, that's what that is. That's a tree. It puts a label on it. Well, that's a me. I am this label. But see, the conditioned mind do not understand that that is what is happening. It sort of merges the description and this movement, merges it together, and the conditioned mind do not understand that the description and the movement are not the same thing. Hence duality. But this is a fictitious, it's a hallucination that the description and the movement are the same. That's an illusion, but the conditioned mind do not understand that. So, every description that is language And to awaken from this duality, the mind has to come to understand that this movement exists completely independent of any description. And that it is possible for the mind to perceive this movement without putting any label on it. This mystery, this amazing, beautiful mystery. That it is possible to observe this movement, including the movement that is observing, without putting any label on it. And through this awakening to this movement, the mind comes to recognize that there are no separation anywhere, that everything is just this movement, and just is a is a dumb word to use in that it is the mind's, and that is not entirely correct to say it is the mind. It is this consciousness, this awareness of this movement, including the awareness itself. And that is why it is possible to say that nothing is happening. Because in order for something to happen, you have to put the labels on it. Without the labels, what is left? A mystery. A miraculous mystery. Everywhere. Then usually the conditioned mind protests. So what's wrong with naming stuff? Absolutely nothing. As long as you know that's what you're doing. As long as you know that reality is not a label, then you can play around with it. Of course. No problem. I can play around with it. I can play around with language, with words. I can make these videos, try to talk about what cannot be talked about, but I can still do it, just for the fun of it. There is no problem in that. See, sometimes it happens that the mind then recognizes, it's the labeling that is the dilemma. And then the mind switches to like a pendulum from one side to the other side. And then all of a sudden, then all the labels, all the language, all the words, they are bad. They are the culprit. They are the imposter. Nope. The words in and of themselves are not the problem. The language in itself is not the problem. It is the conditioned mind not knowing that when we label things, then we create an entirely separate universe, a mental universe. And the conditioned mind, it does not know that, because that is the essence of the conditioned mind. That is this mental, fictitious universe. And the conditioned mind is then certain that this is how things are. This is how the reality is. But it is not. And every time that this mental story, this mental fictitious universe is in direct conflict with reality, the result is pain and suffering, or anger, rage, violence, etc. And this is why that it is highly unlikely that the mind will ever awaken. And again, it's not entirely correct to say that it is the mind that awakens, but it will do for now. It is highly unlikely that an awakening will take place without silence, without stillness. Because in the silence, in the stillness, the naming, the label, the language is gone. And when I'm talking about stillness and silence, I'm actually not talking about outer stillness, outer silence. I'm talking about the internal stillness, the internal silence. And I'm not talking about a continuous, ongoing stillness necessarily, because that's almost impossible to achieve. What I'm talking about is the mind discovering that this internal silence, this internal stillness is always there, even when the narrative is chatting away. That this silence, this stillness, is the very foundation. The foundation of what? Everything. So nothing is actually happening. There seems to be a apparent movement continuously And it seems that the mind really wants to name, put labels on everything. And for practical purposes, it's an amazing tool. And undoubtedly, this capacity to communicate with language, this capacity to naming stuff, which is actually not stuff, but this capacity seems to be one of the main reasons why the human race has become so successful in numbers. But there is also a backside to it, and that is all the pain that is being created, all the suffering. When the mind believes the story that it tells itself to be true. And that is why inquiry is important. Inquiry into the belief systems. Not other people's belief system, but one's own belief system. To inquire into it, to dismantle it, to awaken. To awaken the what shall I call it? Cosmic intelligence. The cosmic intelligence embedded into consciousness. See, that is the missing link in most non-dual teachings. That consciousness is saturated with an intelligence, with a godlike, let's call it that, with a godlike intelligence. And that it is this godlike intelligence that awakens. To itself. It awakens to itself. And it marvels when it discovers what it has created. And from then on, it will be conscious creation, intelligent creation. And what that's going to look like, wow. So that's the direction that humanity is moving in. The cosmic intelligence within the human being awakens. But in essence, there is really nothing happening. Thank you.